All right, everyone, welcome back to the Saturday in Athens GA podcast and the Hammy Show. Today we're breaking down Georgia, Alabama for the second time this year. It's a never-ending saga here with Georgia and Alabama. It's like you've seen that video a couple years back when it was just the Cavs and the Warriors every single year in the finals. That's kind of what this is starting to feel like. It's just this is the matchup you cannot escape for some sort of big stage any year, really. Like it's always going to be a very huge matchup, and it finds its way to it makes its way in those big championship games no matter what. It feels like all the time. But anyway, Hammy, we got news today about Jared Curtis. It's kind of a weird situation where we got news from Hayes Fawcett and other top insiders that he was flipping to Vanderbilt. At the same time, he came out and said that he has not spoken to either school. So obviously a very weird situation. But I wanted to ask you, what are your thoughts on Jared Curtis, and ultimately what do you think is going to happen?
Dude, it's such a weird situation. And I think that's just a product of the generation that we're in, the product of the college football landscape right now. The sense of recruits flipping. We talked about it last time we spoke about Jaden Wade, who's, I think, in the 2028 class or whatever. QB commit from IMG coming to Georgia announced, 2 or 3 weeks ago. And I said then pay zero attention to it. I don't pay attention to a recruit until their name is signed on the dotted line, and really until they suit up for G Day, because they're most of the time enrolling in spring ball. And that's, just kind of the same way it's been since the whole NIL era for any recruit that is, at the top of their game and the top of their class. We saw it with Dylan Raiola, and now we're seeing it with Jared Curtis. I really don't know what to read into the situation. We'll wait and see tomorrow what the final decision is. I do think he's gone. I think he's to Vanderbilt. Based on what I've heard, what I've seen, it was a big fat check from the hometown school in Vanderbilt. And I think Curtis getting to play immediately with Pavia's departure after this year, I just think that lined up better for him. And in my opinion, good riddance. As a Georgia fan, I'm all in on the guy that is willing to wait. So give me Pug after Gunner leaves. If Gunner comes back, I think Pug will still stay. I think Pug then gets the job in due time. I'm ride or die with those guys. I'm ride or die with the kid from Georgia. Like, I love, obviously, the Stetson Bennett story, now the Gunner Stockton story. We saw it with Carson Beck, a sleeved up, tatted arm, and a bunch of fancy cars. It doesn't bode well with the University of Georgia. It doesn't bode well with Kirby Smart system. So if Jared Curtis wants to play immediately and he wants a big fat check, have fun at Vanderbilt. Have fun maybe going 10-2. You don't even know if that's a guarantee. This is the best season in their history, so it's an outlier in regard to their program's history. So, have fun going 7-5 then. We'll stick to winning SEC championships and national championships here in Athens.
Yeah, it's very weird. It's like if Georgia is going after a quarterback with a tatted up arm, it just doesn't end up well. I don't know why. We'll leave that out there. But it's just I think there's a big thing on loyalty at UGA with, again, just you got these players who stay for forever at UGA and they wait their turn. They're gonna get to play. We want those kinds of players. Those sorts of players fit the culture that Kirby Smart has really built. And we seen that 100% with Gunner Stockton. This is his fourth year on the team. He's just now getting to play and he's lighting it up.
Yeah.
But again, it's just a big thing right now, big topic. We'll see tomorrow morning what happens with Jared Curtis. But I want to shift a little bit back into Georgia, Alabama. Georgia is 2-0 in revenge games under Kirby Smart. Obviously, you got 2017 Auburn, then you got 2021 Alabama. I know that Georgia has never beaten Alabama in the SEC championship, but again, Kirby does pretty well in rematch games and revenge games. So anyway, I'm going to throw this at you. Does the rematch help or hurt Georgia at this point in the season?
I think it helps. I think Georgia's a different team. I think Bama's a different team. I know we're going to get into that. But I do think it helps. I think you pick apart a team from a film perspective, from a mentality perspective. And, at the end of the day, the Georgia-Bama game, it hurt, it sucked, and maybe there's some play calls that we didn't agree with. Maybe you did agree with them, but they didn't go our way. But at the end of the day, we lost by 3 to a very good Alabama team, and we had a drop touchdown pass that could have put us ahead. So it's not to say that we can't beat this team. It's just a mentality thing. And so, in that respect, I do think it helps us getting to play these guys again. The mental thing is definitely very much real, and it sucks and it haunts us. And I think about it every day, every night when I go to sleep, and every day when I wake up, how much it sucks to just be somebody's son. And Bama is our dad right now. So I'm hopeful, but you just never know what's going to happen. And in Atlanta, whether it's an SEC championship or the national championship in 2018, man, that place is haunted for us against Alabama. So my thing is, let's do something that we've never done. Let's just get the monkey off the back and let's beat Bama in Atlanta. But like I said, I do think it helps at the end of the day. I think we're two totally different teams, both in the respect, and I think Georgia's on the upward trajectory versus Bama may have plateaued out, not necessarily on the downward trajectory.
But yeah, it's very weird. Georgia just plays so well in Atlanta, plays well in Atlanta under Kirby Smart, has a good history in Mercedes-Benz under Kirby Smart, only has one non-Bama loss, lost to Bama 4 times in that building. So, again, it haunts me at this point. Like you said, it's a stupid curse that we can't break. I don't know what Alabama has done in Atlanta. I don't know what deal with the devil they made on those grounds, but clearly they are having success against us in football games, and I'd like to see that change, obviously. You kind of hinted at this next question, but go ahead and throw it at you. Obviously, it's been almost 3 months since these teams have faced, really closer to 2 months, if you really think about it. But how has Georgia changed since that first matchup on the field? And then I'll ask you the same question for Alabama. How have both of these different teams changed since the last matchup?
Yeah, man, I think it's definitely upward trajectory, like I said, for Georgia, and maybe a plateau sort of thing for Alabama. I think in that stretch for Alabama, I'll talk about the Tide first. In that stretch for Alabama, when they're going to ranked opponents week in and week out, between starting with us and all the way until Missouri, and they went on that 4 or 5 game winning streak. All against ranked opponents. I think that was their peak. I mean, they were playing really good football. Ty Simpson was looking really good. Ryan Williams was very much involved in the offense. And then you get to the Oklahoma game, and that Oklahoma defense forces turnovers, and Bama just throws it right at them. And Ryan Williams is completely uninvolved against Auburn in a very tight game against, a far worse Auburn team. And Georgia played a bad game against Auburn too, but still won that game just like Bama did. So I'm not really using the transitive property in that regard. But I just think Bama has been figured out. Maybe it's figuring out Ty Simpson. Maybe it's figuring out their entire scheme. Maybe it's figuring out, just Bama in general. I don't really know what has been figured out, but it seems to be figured out. And I think the proof lies in the pudding. And the number one cause of that is they have a very limited run game. And if you shut down their run game, just like Georgia did in the first matchup with Alabama, it is very much going to, limit that Alabama team. I think if you put Ty Simpson in the position where he has to be the one to beat you, they're a very beatable team. I went to the Bama LSU game in Bryant-Denny. And yes, Bama won. Yes, they looked like the better team, but LSU is a very bad team this year, and they held it close and they shot themselves in the foot a lot of the time. So it's they looked like a very beatable team in that game. Georgia, on the other hand, has taken the step forward. After the Bama game, we saw a few more close victories from Georgia, like the Auburn one and the Florida one, and the Ole Miss comeback. So like there was definitely some kind of meshing that we had to do as a team, but I really think it came together in that Ole Miss fourth quarter. When Georgia's defense stepped up, it took them one play, and they figured out Trinidad Chambliss. They figured out the Lane Kiffin offense, and they took that step forward and shut them down in the fourth quarter, while Georgia's offense took the next step forward and became this elite offense in the college football landscape. So I think it took that, and then you get the bye week. You go to Florida. You eke out a close win against a hated rival with the interim magic. I think we showed a lot of resiliency there, and then it was just a freight train onward. Mississippi State throttled them. Texas throttled them. Charlotte, we're not really showing anything, but we get out of there pretty much healthy. And then Tech, we get into a knockdown drag out with yet another rival. But the defense once again stepped up. So I think that's the biggest improvement for Georgia is on the defensive side of the ball, and that's no expert take right there. I think any Georgia fan, any college football fan, to the naked eye can see that this Georgia defense has really taken a step forward. So, like I said, upward trajectory for Georgia, kind of plateaued type of trajectory for Alabama.
I agree. I think that's a really good way to put it. I think if you look at Georgia versus Georgia Tech was averaging 35 a game, and I think they were at like 486 total yards a game. Georgia held them to 9 points. That's the best defensive statistic I've seen all year from Georgia. I also believe we've at least doubled the number of sacks we've had since the bye week, maybe more than that. But, I mean, it has been an awesome turnaround to see there. We just need to see Georgia's fourth quarter against Ole Miss. Let's just do that the entire game against Alabama. Let's just get a repeat of that. That was beautiful. Or the fourth quarter against Texas. I'm very confident that this will be a close game. We'll get into score predictions in just a minute. But it's just like these are two teams seen each other before. Low-scoring game the first time. This is just a recipe for a defensive football game, and whoever owns the line of scrimmage is going to win, and it's going to be really close, I think. We'll get into that in just a minute. But I've got to ask you, what does Georgia have to do to win this football game? If you're Kirby Smart, like what's your game plan heading into this one? Obviously, we've seen Georgia in the past. When we play Alabama, sometimes we play very differently, it feels like. I read a comment a couple weeks ago that was talking about some of the examples of how aggressive Kirby has been against them. We can look at the 4th and 1. We can look at the fake punt, things of that nature. Sometimes it just feels like Georgia doesn't really play their standard and brand of football against Alabama. I can't explain it. I know you can't explain that, but that's just kind of what we've seen. What does Georgia have to do overall, though, to come out with a win against Alabama this Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you brought up like the playing different type of aspect against Alabama. It's super interesting. We go for the 4th and 1 against Bama earlier in the year. You talked about the fake punt in the SEC championship with Justin Fields many moons ago. So it's just like Kirby gets this aggressive sense, but I don't necessarily think it's an aggressive sense that is absent in other games. Like we saw it against Texas with the onside kick. That was the ballsiest thing I've ever seen. The 4th and 1 earlier in the Texas game, like he was taking the momentum and taking it for a joyride. Like he wanted to put the nail in the coffin and bury that team. And I think Kirby gets in that mentality against Bama. Like you have to kind of have that edge against these really good teams. So I'm not opposed to just not like having this, kind of over aggressive take on Bama. I think Kirby has that over aggressive take on any team. He's like a Dan Campbell, just like with the Lions, Dan Campbell, it might be 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter and you're up 6 and he's going for it on 4th and 3. Like that's the type of mentality. I don't mind it. I'm with it. So, it's throw all the stuff out the window, throw all of the game planning, throw all of every over aggressive take, whatever. I mean, it is, you still do have to stick to the standard and the game plan of Georgia football that has been successful for us all year. I think that's running the football, establishing it. I think that's the screen passes, the slants over the middle. It was interesting in the Georgia Tech game. I saw us get away from the screen passes a lot. And we were taking deep shots. And I felt like it was kind of like, oh, we got to force it down the field. We took the ball out of Nate Frazier's hand, and Nate was averaging like 8.3 yards per carry. Whatever's working, don't get away from it. So that's kind of my take on the game plan side. I think a huge part of this game is offensive line play. With Drew Bobo, his, uncertainty of whether he's playing or not for the rest of the season. I don't think he's playing.
Doesn't sound like it.
Yeah, and so Malachi Tolliver is going to be the guy at center, and that's 3 freshmen on the starting offensive line for this Georgia team, which is terrifying because when Drew went out, you saw Gaston and you saw Glover kind of take a step back as well. It's like Drew was the glue guy of that offensive line. And yeah, he might not be the most talented, but he's got it up here. He's got it between the ears, and he's the leader of that group. And so when Gaston and Glover don't have him to look to on the offensive line when it's loud in that building, or when the play call isn't said and they don't understand it, like they're leaning over. I've seen it multiple times on the offensive line. They're turning to their left or to their right, looking at Drew and asking, "Hey, what's the plan?" You know? So you got to have that dude on the offensive line, and it's terrifying to not have Drew Bobo. So the three freshman offensive linemen have to take a step forward, have to step up to the plate, have to be those guys, open up the holes, because our rush attack has been tenfold better than it was last year. That was the major flaw of last year's team, aside from the drops in the wide receiver room. But we've got the run game back. We've got one of the best two-headed monsters in Nate Frazier and Chauncey Bowens, and we got to get Bowens back. That's another part of it. But if we get that run game going, I think we're going to be a very hard offense to stop. We've seen Gunner, if he has that run game going, they have to respect it, and they have to respect his running ability. He can dance out of the pocket and make something out of nothing, but it opens up the screen game and the deep route. Like it opens up so much stuff. So we have to have good offensive line play. I've got way more trust in our defense than I did earlier in the year. So I'm all for our defense. I think we can get to Ty Simpson. I think we can shut down them in the deep game, and I think we can shut down their rush attack because it's not very strong. So I'm confident on the defensive side of the ball, but the offensive line is what scares me, and I think that's where the key to this game lies.
I think those are really good points. And, talking about Drew Bobo, a lot of times your offensive linemen don't get noticed unless they're playing poorly. And, I mean, that's not always true. Generally, to the average football watcher, that's the truth.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you don't really compliment your offensive linemen unless they're playing poorly. Then you're like, oh, he sucks. I'm guilty of that before. Okay, I really am. Drew Bobo, beginning of the year, I was very critical of him just because I saw some plays where I didn't think he exactly finished blocks well. Not for a lack of effort, but just I didn't think he finished blocks well, and that got better and better as the year went on. But you kind of mentioned it. He's got it up here. He really is the leader of the group. He has been just a very underappreciated piece of this Georgia football team. I just want to make it known that he deserves a lot of credit for the way that this Georgia offensive line has really played all year. Offensive line, remember what we had in week 2, in week 3, from an offensive line standpoint? It was horrifying. Now, a lot of injured pieces too, so that's part of it. But you had a lot of guys in there that it's just like, oh no, this is not good. And it got better and better and better. Dontrell Glover has played very well here. He also deserves a lot of credit. We mentioned guys like Juan Gaston and Monroe Freeling and Ernest Green. Dontrell Glover doesn't get his name mentioned as much, I don't think. He's played great. So there's a shout out to him as well. One thing they did in the Tech game that they overdid, they being Bobo, called it too much, but I really liked, were those design runs to Gunner. They worked most of the time. They picked up yards most of the time. It's just they did it a lot. But that's a critique I got from that game from a bunch of people I've spoken to. They're like, we did that design QB run over and over again. Way too much. Yeah. And I agreed. It was too much. But it looked beautiful. Especially they did this against Texas, I know. Maybe against Ole Miss, maybe against Tennessee. But where they do the misdirection, they bring the receiver the opposite way of where Gunner's about to run. That's beautiful. And Gunner's fast. I knew he was fast, but watching some of those clips back, I was like, oh, he got wheels. He can run. He's got wheels. But that was a takeaway I have from that game. Very random and unrelated to what you just said. But here's the bread and butter. Here's the end of it all. Obviously, you cannot give me a normal score prediction, which I love it because it's working. So let's keep that rhythm. Let's keep doing that. But straight up, I mean, this is it. This is not Georgia losing this game is not going to knock them out of the playoffs, but Georgia winning this game is a morale boost. It means a lot to the fan base, means a lot to the team, and it probably knocks Alabama out of the playoffs unless it's a 1-point game.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you, I mean, this is a big deal what happens in this game. What do you see happening? What's your score prediction?
So I got to tee it up with this first. I think it's quite comical this year that Texas A&M has one of their most historic seasons in program history. Their best season as an SEC team. They're fighting for an first ever SEC championship berth. And Texas has 3 top 10 wins and a win over Texas A&M in rivalry week. Vanderbilt has the best season in program history. Ole Miss has the best season in program history. And it always comes back to Georgia and Alabama in the SEC.
Yes.
Everybody talks about how Bama and Georgia are falling behind, and Texas is the new sheriff in the SEC, and Texas A&M is this hot shot commodity in the SEC. But now we are the inevitable programs. The SEC still runs through Bama and Georgia. And that's what tees up this matchup to be so beautiful and so exciting. And it's obviously a rematch, and we've seen it countless times. But I'm pumped up for this game. I really want to win. I know it matters in the scope of the playoffs, whether you get a bye or not, whether Alabama's in or not. I think they're still in even if they lose, but that's just me. But I it's going to be teed up on a silver platter as one of the games of the year. With that being said, I'm going to stick with weird score predictions, and I'm not going to give you a winner. I'm going 31-29.
Ooh.
Weird on the second one. So yeah, I think something weird is going to happen. We've seen a 33-18 game in this matchup, the national championship. So there's been some odd scores. But yeah, that's where I stand. I'm going 31-29, not announcing a winner.
Okay. That honestly, I was not expecting that. And I think, as far as margin of victory, I think this is going to be a stupid close game, as it always is. It's never a 2-score game usually. It's been that a couple times, but usually it's not. I think Georgia's going to win, and I'm going to say 17-10.
Wow.
That's also weird. It's very low scoring. So
yeah.
Let me say this. The one time I've ever watched Georgia beat Alabama, I predicted Alabama to win. And it was kind of for the same reason a lot of Dog Nation feels right now. It's like, we can't beat these guys. It doesn't matter. Logic out the window. They're going to beat us. That was my reasoning for that pick. And we beat Alabama. So the last year I tried the same thing. I was like, okay, it's good luck when I pick against Georgia, so I'm going to pick Alabama. And it did not work last year. So now that's out the window. So, but I genuinely think that Georgia, and again, it's so weird because it's like they've had our number. You cannot make sense of the ways we have lost in this rivalry, so it's tough to defend this point. But I think every single way that Georgia struggled in that first game, they have not struggled really as of late. They're getting to the quarterback in a better fashion. The defensive backs are a lot better. Ellis Robinson is playing incredible football right now. Gunner has really figured it out. He didn't play a bad game that day, but outside of last week, Gunner has played very well down the stretch. And another reason I have that so low scoring, remember last year, Georgia beat Texas 30-15 in Austin, and I predicted a 38-28 SEC championship, and someone was like, oh, rematches are always much lower scoring. And I'm like, but okay, whatever, who cares? I think it's going to be high scoring. Not a good take. So decided for a while this is going to be low scoring. I think 17-10, somewhere in that range. This could be a last possession sort of game. It'll probably come down to the last possession, realistically. Last possession or two, I'm sure. I don't see a blowout. I think there's 3 possibilities. I think Georgia wins close. I think Bama wins close. And then I do not expect this next one, but if there's going to be a blowout, I expect it to be Georgia.
Yeah.
But I don't expect that. I expect it no matter what way it's going to be close. We'll go 17-10 Georgia, though. That's what I'll say.
I like it. I love it. It's a win.
I love it.
So,
hey, if we win 3-2, I will be ecstatic, okay? I will be so happy. You have no idea.
Yeah, same.
Or you do have no idea. We will both be so hyped. Well, Hammy, thank you as always for – yes, I'll be there.
All right, me too. It's going to be fun.
Let's go. So you got 2 obnoxious Georgia fans right here on the screen who are going to be screaming, and obviously I'm already sick, but I'm going to scream a little more and get a little more sick this weekend. That's okay. We make sacrifices for this team that I love so much. But Hammy, thank you so much for joining the show. Go Dogs. Let's go beat Bama.
Go Dogs, man. Beat Bama in Atlanta.